Hey everybody, this is Vril. Welcome back to Extended Timeline New World Order. So we're up to the year 2036. So in the last episode we had Mexico take out Panama completely. Now the big stuff that was going on was between Ukraine and Russia. Actually, Ukraine had allies in most of the European Union here, and they were able to take a large chunk of Russia all the way down to bordering with the Caucasus nations. Here we had Turkey waging war against Iran. Iran was allied with Ghazi Kamuk here, and Georgia. Turkey was allied with Saudi Arabia, and actually Ukraine as well. Now, another big thing going on was between Myanmar and Malaya here, and they've actually been feuding since the beginning of this series. Myanmar was actually able to win that war, and they were able to release pieces of Thailand. They've actually taken areas of Thailand already from that, so I don't know why they'd give that back, but that is what happened. And we had a couple independent nations released. Malacca, Johor actually have, I wasn't sure last episode, we have independent Singapore called Chin here, so a pretty cool flag there. So I think that is where we are at. Let's have a quick look at the armies of the world. We have the US on top, followed by Russia, India, Germany, Canada, some reason in the top 5 here. You notice Malaya is completely off here. They used to be in the top 5, top 10, and we do have a war between Brazil and Peru. You can see they're both pretty struggling for manpower. The Brazilians are completely out of it already. So looking at the wars we actually have going on, let me go ahead and sort this by score. Italian, Malayan punitive war. So we have Italy and basically the entire European Union at war against Malaya because Malaya's been aggressive. China was in that war, but they look like they pieced out. We have Brazil, Paraguay war, and Peru is allied with Paraguay. We have Chinese Hui war here, so just like a minor Chinese nation, and China's trying to take that back. And actually, again, Peru's in another war here. Mexico decided to go in there, but in this one, since it's a defensive war, Peru actually has some pretty good allies in Venezuela, and actually they somehow got an alliance with France as well, so very good for them. So let me just get things going here, and we'll see what happens. Malaya's going to be struggling, I would say. And between Brazil and Peru, Peru's kind of up against it, but they have some pretty good allies. They've really worked diplomacy well in this. It looks like Venezuela just won a battle against the Mexicans there, so pretty useful for them. Mexico, I'm not sure exactly why it sounds like a good idea to declare this war against Peru since Peru's already occupied with Brazil, but you've got Venezuela and France in there, so it doesn't seem like the wisest thing. If it was just Peru, then maybe. I could see, although Argentina has a pretty small army at this point, they could probably go into either Brazil or Peru. If one of those gets knocked down to size, maybe that would be a good option for them, but we'll have to see if any of that happens. Heading back on over to Malaya, we'll basically be splitting between, I'd say, South America and Malaya, unless some other interesting wars. I don't really think too much interesting. I mean, we have these bunch of African wars going on, but I'm not as interested in those as I am with the Malaya and what's going on in South America. So we've got a naval battle between Malaya and Portugal as well. You see Chin has a little bit of army there in Singapore. So Malaya does have a 65k stack there. We've got people like Spain and Portugal sieging out, and Iceland apparently sieging out territory here in Java, not making it to Borneo yet. And yeah, I mean, Malaya actually has moved their capital has been moved to the main island. They've had some Malayan peasants that they're dealing with, though, on Borneo, so that's not good for them. I think we had a couple of wars, and actually we've got a Chinese change of form in government against China, and Nepal, of all places, is allied with the Chinese. Talking about crazy worlds, so this is actually the second time the Russians have done this. Looks like they are at least somewhat ready for this, because a lot of these times the AI will... It's like some Russian separatists that the Ukrainians are dealing with, so that's... Even though it's 2036, that's what we've got. Yeah, a lot of Russian separatists that the Ukraine guys are dealing with. They've got some massive stacks to deal with. Wow. I actually want to see this battle, but Ukraine's one of our powerhouses here. Yeah, they're going to win, I think. This is going to be really, really close. Yeah, they beat that one. So yeah, they're going to have to deal with that. That's not going to help them with their manpower regen, though. So yeah, Russia and China, wow. Second time they've been at war in this series. I mean, in the first one, they took a pretty good chunk of northern China, basically be like Manchukuo in the World War II series. And they were bordering with North Korea for a while, but then there was that punitive war, I think, from the European Union. Gave all that territory back to China. Here we go, we do have Malay and Malacca still here in Papua New Guinea there. Heading back over to South America. It looks like the Peruvians probably lost the battle here. We actually had a few other, I think mostly our African wars, like our Ethiopia, Angolan, that was what it was, Angolan War. Chinese Hue War, looks like it's ended as well. We'll have to check that out if Hue still exists. So, actually, when I was looking, the Brazil War had just finished off. That's what it is. So, I don't think that the Peruvians lost any territory, but Paraguay is completely gone. So, not looking good for the Mexicans because Peru should be able to end up focusing north. Maybe they'll end up taking territory all the way up here, and Peru will border with the U.S. We'll see. Just looking at these islands here, nothing going on in Cuba, anything like that. I was very surprised that we actually had action going on in Cuba in the World War II series. So it looks like we've got Niger. Yeah, we knew about this, Ethiopia, Niger. So actually quite a bit of a war going on there, but more interested in what's going on. Yeah, it looks like the Chinese actually took all of Hue, I guess would be the name. See if Malaya is going to be able to come back here. I mean, we have all these European nations that are warring against Malaya here, but for the most part, like the Italians, who are actually the ones who declared this war, they're not really moving across the ocean here. And it's saying that it's occupied by Italy, but that's all Portugal and Spain actually doing the occupations there. Spain does have that 3-star general. Here's another Portuguese fleet being destroyed. But Malaya's having some issues with those pretender rebels, just the peasants. So that's certainly not helping. Russia's been pretty dumb when it came to declaring wars. Maybe not at the beginning of this series, but recently they've declared some wars that were basically unwinnable and have really suffered because of it. So we'll see. Hopefully this one is not another one of them, and they can end up, I'm kind of rooting for them, taking over another good-sized chunk of China, and hopefully being able to keep it this time. I'm surprised that Japan maybe hasn't tried to think about going into China either, but they probably, I mean, with the mechanics of these island nations is probably not very good for the EU force, so probably not going to do too much. They obviously could back in the World War II series because they actually had territory of Korea, so... Anything else? Mexico is losing. The Russians are losing so far. It's sort of funny that Nepal is allied with China. We'll see if the Indians could try to take advantage of somebody here. Indians are allied with the Mongolians. I would think that the Indians would want to also go into China as well. The Russians are letting a Chinese stack move through into basically north of Mongolia, so better get on that. And actually Malaya's sieging all of this territory back and I have a feeling it's going to lead to a pretty decisive battle here. Or are they escaping off? Or maybe it... Okay, we've got the third American-Mexican imperialist war. This is not looking good for Mexico. We have a Malacca against the Johor that we just mentioned was released. So let's quickly, before the Americans finish this, see. I don't think they actually have their army on the border here unless they've already moved in, but no, I'm not seeing it. Where is the American army? They're hanging out in like Washington, D.C. and Baja. Yeah. It'd be nice if the EU4 AI would actually like go to the border before they declared a war. That would be like something the player would maybe do. So yeah, I think that the Mexican army for the most part is completely shot. So I could see Peru is going to get some territory here. I don't think that the French have actually shown up anywhere here. Got some St. Lucian noble rebels in the islands there. I just felt like I was about to sneeze, but I think I fought it off a little bit there. Yeah, I think that if Malaya actually decides to get over here, I don't think they have access through those islands, though. We've got some Pegu separatists here. Wow, Myanmar's got some rebel issues here. Particularists, we've got all kinds. Particularists, noble rebels, wow, they've got some issues. So if Myanmar, or if anybody for that matter, I guess... I wonder, yeah, they're actually allied with India at this point. I was going to say India could go in there. I was just going to look at opinion. So the Russians haven't really got together a decisive, consistent defense yet against China. They, again, were not smart to declare that war. Myanmar particulars. I don't think Myanmar, I think they're going to be going through some changes here very soon. We've got, who is this, Ivory Coast and Ghana and against Togo and Burkina Faso. We've got a Tunisian reconquest against Libya. Yeah, this Russian reconquest is not going well. So like I was saying, so Tunisia wanting some territory back. Libya really... I mean, they almost didn't exist at some point, so they were able to get that territory back. Looks like our Malaccan guys took over Johor, I think was what it was called. We'll see if maybe they decide to go into Singapore. That's should be a pretty good place to own. So this war, actually that punitive war just ended is what I was about to say. Yeah, so the Malaya was able to defeat the punitive war. Let me just check one thing real quick. No coalitions currently exist, so that coalition has faded. Malaya was pretty much able, I mean, they've lost some territory, but for the most part they got out pretty good from what could have been. I could have seen that really get split up there. See if the Russians actually decide to start. Yeah, they've occupied all the territory back that the Chinese had taken in basically north of Mongolia. The American-Mexican war is just about to finish off. Let's see if we can... Oh boy. Yeah, so Peru has beat the Mexicans, taking north of Panama, releasing Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Belize, Guatemala, and the Americans just finished off Mexico as well, leaving Mexico with 2 provinces. So we'll see. The Americans are going to be going into Guatemala most likely here. Let's see what the Americans think about Guatemala. Average relations. Good relations with the Canada there. I don't see anybody... Maybe there'll be a punitive war against the Americans here for all their aggression into Mexico. So, I'm sure a lot of you guys are enjoying that whole deal there. Rwanda, Burundian. The Ivory Coast thing. Let's go back to China-Russia. The clash in the east here between Russia and China. Looks like the Indians are letting Nepal go through India to defend China, but I guess that's... India's probably just thinking, you go waste your manpower and we're going to invade you at some point in time. Yeah, it looks like there's a couple stacks of the Chinese, some 50k stacks, but for the most part, I think the Russians have got the number at this point. You can barely see that they've occupied some of these territories. The green, light green on the yellow is not too easy to see. Looks like we're about to lose a battle. Still remains to be seen, but yeah, it looks like the Russians are going to beat the Chinese there. There it is. A lot of casualties there for the Russians, though. Started with like 60, and then they were down to like 17k. But they won. I guess that's what matters. Russians do have a lot of manpower, so should be okay. Should be okay. Oh, yeah, like I was mentioning, Malacca going into Chin here. Okay. That's actually going to be a good battle if they decide to actually fight each other. We're got like a 9k with a 2-star general against 11k with a 1-star. I'd rather be Chin in that case. You just like sit on your land there and be able to win that battle. Yeah, it's not looking good for the Chinese here, so... Yeah, this war has flipped. It was going negative for the Russians at first. Starting to go positive. They're winning battles, they're occupying territory. The all-important occupation of territory. And I'm sure that the Chinese are probably low on manpower. I mean, they've had so much going on between India, and then we had the punitive war against Malaya. It's probably the best thing for Malaya was when China pieced out early on that one. It certainly helped that war score for them. Just looking at this, nothing too interesting. Still good with the China. Just crazy what's going on here in South America and Central America. Mexico's down to 2 provinces. Wow. Do have an independent Jamaica here. I think in the last one, in the World War II series, Venezuela like went into Jamaica. It might have even been their capital at one point in time because Venezuela became Venezuela and Colombia, I think was the name, because the Venezuelan capital was moved, or prime territory was moved away from there. Anything going on here? So the Moluccans were able to siege out here in Singapore, so good for them. Somehow able to win that battle with just a 1-star general. Tunisian reconquest there in Libya is going well for them. Yeah, I don't see... Okay, there's the Libyan army. Not good. Let's quickly look over these African wars, see if there's anything interesting. Niger's getting pretty large. Actually, Niger... This has probably been going on for a while, but pretty good battle here between East Africa and West Africa, I'd say. Between Niger and Ethiopia, kind of our powerhouses here, but I think that Ethiopia is probably the better place here. I would think that Ethiopia would have more valuable provinces than Niger would, but yeah, Tanzania. Tanzania has been growing recently as well. I think they lost, or have either claims or they lost territory to Rwanda, though. Madagascar is sitting here peacefully as well, though. Oops. Okay, yeah, well, we're probably going to get the end of this Chinese-Russian war very, very soon, but the Chinese are kind of just scattered with like these 30k stacks, so the Russians not good against defending that. I'm sure Malaya's rebuilding their army here, and they'll hopefully be back in the top 10 soon and be able to push back into what was Thailand and all that. But yeah, it actually does look like we're out of time for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, please hit the like button. It really helps out the channel. And I'll see you guys next time.